Good morning, everybody. Ricardo Wilkins here. Q for Teams, champions using Teams effectively. I see the usual suspects here, so we'll let other folks keep joining, but we can just dive right in with any questions you may have, either coming off mute or in chat. I think Stacy may be joining, maybe Nash. I'm not sure. You might just have me. Hopefully that's enough. Before we jump into your questions, there's one thing I wanted to show that I learned this week from a colleague. It's very small, but it's big for me because I have in the past been advising people who are looking to get to the Outlook group for the team. I've always showed this hack, and if you guys got a better way, I'd love to hear that too. But I've always come into the team to go to the Files tab just so I can get to the Open in SharePoint button. And then I use this Conversations button on the left to take me over to Outlook in the web, which drops me into the Groups area. As you can see here, the Mark 8 project, and that's where the distribution list is. That's where the group calendar is. That's like 4 or 5 clicks to get here, because often you come in here and sometimes your group isn't listed here. Like clearly I'm in I think I'm in more than 2 teams, but I'm only seeing 2 listed here. So to me, this has always been the, I guess, the reliable way of getting here. What I learned, though, is I had 1 click too many. I didn't know that I can just come to the team and this button there had Open in SharePoint. So I thought that was cool. So if you've ever been using my tip to get to the community, to that group, we now have 1 less click to do, I guess. Yeah, 1 less click. So I don't know if that's useful. It was eye-opening to me. So there you go. And if anybody's got a better way of getting there, I mean, I call that a hack just with the number of clicks it is, but that's the only real way I know to go from Teams to that area. So to see question in the chat about Teams channel calendars, which we started talking about last week. Is there a way to add Outlook meeting invitations to a Teams channel calendar? And when I think about that question, I feel like so let's go, where did I make a channel, a group? No, I know I made one last week. It might have been my other environment, but let's go ahead and let's add one here, let's say. So we'll add a channel calendar, which we learned last week often starts down here.
Hi, can you hear me?
What'd you say?
Oh, sorry, I wasn't sure if I was talking. I wasn't sure if you could hear me. I wanted to give you a little more context on my question.
Okay.
So we have a Teams channel calendar, and we're using, so actually in our SharePoint site, we're using that channel calendar to feed a calendar web part.
Mm-hmm.
And, the thing we wanted to be able to add was, like, when we have enterprise-wide meetings, like, an all-hands meeting or something like that, we want to be able to feed those invitations into that one Teams channel calendar so we could display it ultimately display it on SharePoint. But is there a way to do that? Because I know that you can't create email for government. You can't create email addresses for the Teams channel.
Right. So you're wanting to take just a calendar invite, that may not even have anything to do with Teams, and try to bring that into the channel calendar to display there.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like this channel calendar is very specific to, channel meetings. I mean, even if I guess I could add a new event and kind of redo duplicate that to some extent, but I feel like the short answer is no. I think that's kind of what we talked about last week. That its focus is very uh, it has a very specific focus. And if you want a calendar that's more robust, for more scenarios, then that's likely a either SharePoint list with the calendar view or an old-fashioned SharePoint calendar might have some better results. But and neither of those is an exchanged-based calendar, which is probably the most appropriate for that scenario you're describing. The other thing I'm thinking is that in Outlook, probably, here's my group calendar for the Mark 8 project. If I've got some invite over here, I could probably copy it over. Yeah, I could copy it over, and I suspect that would land in that group calendar. Is there a way for me to look at that? What was that, Mark 8? I guess it would depend. Oh, that's probably not based on a channel, what I just did. So this might be an approach, but yeah, that one wouldn't be channel based. So that probably would not appear on a group calendar or on the channel calendar. So I feel like the short answer is no for bringing that non-channel related meeting over into the channel calendar.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's a location for that one. And this one, I don't know if I could even fake it or not. Yeah,
we're trying to help them not have to do this manually, but I'm also trying to explore some Power Automate to see if there's a flow somehow we could do this with, but
yeah. The other thing I'd say there, well, the other thing I have said in the past, I've always said that when I give like Teams webinars or 100 level, whatever, and I've come to the calendar part, I always caution, hey, even as pretty as this looks, this is not a replacement for Outlook. Outlook's still the premium place for calendar management, so even this piece here is just a convenient place to kind of join a meeting from your calendar. Same with the group calendar, there's some convenience added there, but I feel like Teams is not trying to really get in the business of calendar management, just based on the couple things that it's done so far.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Tim, you're saying channel calendar is not a calendar, it's filtered for channel meetings only, right? Yeah. The where I was going with that initially, though, is I do get folks that have this they get frustrated when they are making a channel meeting and not everybody gets the alert, or how do I get that on people's calendar? And what I was at least going to show is that when there is a calendar that's living in Teams, or an invite living in Teams, there's usually an add to my calendar button. So even if I missed the notification, if it's a channel meeting, which I can't, oh, here's one. Yeah, there you go. So here's one. I may or may not have gotten the notification, but this add to calendar button to me is the main connection I've seen from Teams to Outlook, right?
Okay, yeah.
So that's putting a copy of it on my personal calendar if for whatever reason it didn't go on there automatically, where I have seen that happen too, based on a channel meeting invite. So I usually point that button out. Tim, I see your hand. Do you want to come off mute and do you have a comment?
Is going to take a little bit longer to type, but just to the point about these channel meetings and the notifications, we found that to be kind of problematic as well, in that people wanted to get an email notification, right? And that's going to be driven by their group setting and it's very complicated and many people don't know how to do it. And so we've fallen back to what you just said, is that if they want to get on their calendar, find the meeting in the channel and add it to their calendar. So that's one of the things. Yeah, that's it. And, you know, when you create a team, you can go there and you can default it so that it actually will go into the notification will go to their inbox, but they can go change it. And we found a lot of people go and change it because they want to get things out of their inbox, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the bottom line is there's no way to 100% be assured people are going to get email notifications of channel meetings.
And because of that, the other thing I've recommended, so I've certainly recommended, hey, go or tell your users to go to their group settings here and make sure that that this is set to receive if they're wondering why they missed it. But the other practice that I use too is, again, assume or maybe think that maybe my alert might not get out, and so if I make a channel meeting, I'm going to follow up with a @ mention probably to the team, or whatever the context needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
And say something here just as a backup, just to make, I'm not going to depend on this going out to people's calendar. I'm going to follow it up with another kind of notice that might be more, that I know might be, more likely to hit everyone's feed. So again, just kind of a best practice. I guess in a perfect world, shouldn't need it. The alert would always go out. But to your point, some people are adjusting their settings purposefully to minimize alerts. So again, this just a backup. A lot of times the @ mentions are really crucial. When I give 100 level webinars, that's one of the first things I try to teach is the power of the @ mention. If you're a new Teams user and you want people to, you don't want to put content in and wonder why nobody sees it, you got to start using those @ mentions, at least initially, because you don't know if your users, you don't know what their practices are. Are they, watching this all day long? Have they turned things off? They don't want some of these alerts. So yeah, especially until you get to know the team and kind of know that they're diligently watching, if at all, those mentions and things are going to be helpful. Then the next best practice question is how many alerts are too many? I've been in teams where the team, you can see, is somewhat opposed to like the channel mention. There's a book about some teams best practices, and one of them I like. I think they have like 10 P's for using a team, and one is basically I forget what the P stood for, but it's basically saying you as a team should just agree on how you're going to work within your team. There's not necessarily a right or wrong way. It's just the way that you all as a team agree to. And so as a team, even though channel mentions are there and people use them all the time, as a team, you may agree it's too much, for this team. Let's not use them, disable, some channel moderation, something like that. So sometimes you walk this fine line of how much is too much. That @ team that I just did there, that's to me like the most powerful @ mention you can do, right? I am @ mentioning everyone in this team, not just people who are watching a certain channel or things like that. How much is too much to use that? I certainly don't want to put that on every little post I do. So just having that that just the right amount of the @ mentions. Certainly a personal @ mention to individuals, I think makes sense if it'd be the equivalent of sending them directly an email. So I hope nobody gets upset about a personal mention, but those big mentions for a whole channel, for a whole group, sometimes can get a little unwieldy. The flip side of that is the end user should have a lot of ways to manage those alerts. I mean, on a channel, I think we've talked about this in the past. There's channel notifications, or there's notification settings per channel, in addition to those like all up notifications in the settings, right? So I can control some settings there. So when I start fine tuning and tweaking all these things, I should get teams to talk to me the way I want. maybe even despite how you, the other user, are doing your mentions. So I can certainly turn it off for this channel, even turn it off for a particular conversation. Got notifications that are conversation specific. So if a particular conversation was getting chatty or overusing mentions, I could turn it off there. So to me, that's a interesting and kind of, I don't, controversial may not be the right word, but that's an interesting part of this our new way of working, with teams, is some of the etiquette that that we need to use, and what works best. But I do like the recommendation about whatever the etiquette is, as long as it's one your team agrees with. Again, no right or wrong answer. If you want to turn off mentions altogether, if that's even possible, as long as the team agrees, about that. But I don't know if anybody's got any good or bad stories about their mentioning experience with their teams. Hopefully you are using that to some degree. To me, I think is the best way to get your things mentioned. See in the chat, setting up alerts in the back end makes my users much happier. They get alerts on specific documents or folders. Mentions hasn't been adopted that well. Okay, so you guys aren't the mentions, but the alerts. Alerts on those documents, on when they're added to a library or updated. To me, I like them, especially when I can tell SharePoint to just do them daily or something like that. I mean, it's almost, to me, that's like SharePoint's now my assistant, giving me this info. Again, I know some people are trying to minimize email, even automated, alerts. I feel like with rules and whatnot, I want the systems to keep me abreast of what's going on. I know how to ignore or delete something. So yes, I love the alerts, but you're right, that's different. Those file alerts would be different than the mentions, for sure. For our big teams, we recommend turning off member ability to do @team or @channel, so only owners can do that. I've seen that too. Only the owners get that power or decision to spam the team to some degree, right? I can see that, because I've certainly been in teams where you can tell that some of the users in the team, that's just the way they do things on all of their posts. Like you can see every post, they start or finish it with the channel mention, and depending on how chatty they are, that could get out of hand, right? I mean, that's a lot of posts in your feed. The flip side of that, flip side of that, I was just thinking is, and this is what I have done when I see a team that's chatty with mentions. My first step is just to go to that team and fine tune the notifications on either the channel where that is chatty, or the conversation is chatty. I go flip some things off. Usually it reminds me that it's a team that I hadn't fine-tuned. I like, when I get in a new team, I like to go in and make sure all my notifications are set well. And so usually when I'm seeing too many chatters, it's probably I haven't actually hit that yet and fine-tuned anything. So that's usually my approach, as opposed to telling someone, hey, you're using mentions too much. I'll just tweak my settings, my per channel settings or per team settings to try to hold that back. But yeah, channel moderation. Yeah, depending on the purpose of the team, channel moderation and controlling either posting or mentioning in that team definitely makes sense, because what you don't want is for people to, get fatigued by that team and then not, use it, right? We don't want to give people a reason to not start to like this environment and go back to email. Even though email's got the same kind of, challenges, overload challenges. So yeah, either moderating things in some way or in educating the users about their ability to self-moderate. This might be one way of saying it. Yep, and Nash just put a link to our docs for managing large teams and the best practices there. Yep. So that probably in one link sums up everything we just talked about. Actually, I mean, I'm kind of, I guess I could scroll through it on screen, but it is a good looking document here. I'll just post it. Morning, Nash.
Morning.
Yeah, there's good stuff in there for sure.
Yeah, I just always remind people, like, the defaults for everything, whether it's a team, whether it's a meeting, they're designed for you to get together and collaborate with your coworkers, right? Whether it's your people manager team or your project program or initiative. But it's useful for things that are a lot bigger than that, but the defaults aren't going to be for that. So yeah, I've got a department-wide team or a statewide team. Yeah, plan that out. Make some intentional decisions. Oh, I'm hosting the the governor's all hands meeting. Yeah, you're going to want to go into the meeting options and change them, because the defaults are designed for you and your peers to get together. When it's bigger than that, go in and make some changes there.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, the default is like almost like maximum collaboration, right?
Right. Which for 95%, that's what
Exactly.
you want. But that
Yeah.
other 5%, it's like, whoa, this is too much. Okay, yep. Anticipate that for a team where you're going to have everybody in it.
Treat every team as if it could potentially be a all org team, like a 10,000 user team or something. That'll at least get you thinking about your settings. Tim, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that. It's like, especially one other trigger on that is if it's a public team, because those are obviously the ones that are probably going to get bigger and people can join them freely. And so you want to, try to moderate the behavior there. The other thing that I would say we found out, and if you a little bit of analysis on what you use Teams for, because Yammer is difficult for the GCC. We actually are using Teams sometimes in kind of a Yammer role. And so that's, again, another reason so essentially it's an information type team, right? You're really trying more to just get information out. And you, again, want to cut down on people trying to do, a lot of at mentioning in a team like that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I think some of the moderation settings are built well for that. So, one person posting, but then the rest can reply, or maybe no replies. If you've got thousands of folks in a team, like you say, maybe it is a one-to-many. And so when we got channel moderation added, that really allowed for that kind of scenario to occur.
Yeah, we recommend that, if you have a leader, somebody who wants to just post in a particular channel and not have people reply at all. So it can kind of like be an announcement channel, or so it's a very managed content channel. Mm-hmm. And then you set up another channel for them to ask questions, right? Yeah. So you can have both purposes.
And the other thing I think important about that is just communicating that to the users, because you can also have a scenario, I'm a new Teams user, and maybe this is one of the first Teams I join. You'd hate to have them think that Teams is, a place where I can't really do anything except get messages, right? Helping them understand you have this particular team you've joined is a one-to-many, but it is not, the typical scenario for a team. So, among your users, you got all kinds, right? Brand new, still trying to get the hang of it, seasoned veterans. So, you just want to make sure their experience is a good one coming in. Seeing a couple things in the chat here. And Nash did post another thing about the organizing, best practices for organizing teams. And then I saw something about Microsoft Loop and Teams integration. Is there any news if that is going to be in GCC? Did Stacy join us too? Or I see her in the chat.
I can talk on it.
Yeah, go ahead.
So there was a message center post that was shortly lived in GCC about the deployment that they pulled because it wasn't supposed to be targeted. But they did replace it at the end of March with a new one that explains the plan. So they have not rolled out yet. It will be available to GCC tenants in the future, but it's going to be later this calendar year. So The public roadmap item I can throw in chat, but it's right now slated for November.
Yeah. And I know you guys are seeing it here. I happen to be in a commercial tenant right now, but that's the loop feature that we're talking about. Again, I'm not in a GCC tenant. This is commercial. So you're saying November for GCC?
Yep. So give me a second here and I'll throw the link in chat.
GCC tenant was giving me problems today. Yeah, and Stacy also confirmed that in the chat. And then looking at, let's see, did I miss anything? Okay. Can either of you tell me? Oh, okay. So I think Stacy's just asking some follow-ups there. And then Tim, question about the Power Automate app in GCC. There's a roadmap entry about it, but it's not clear. Does anybody know? I
can talk about that one too. So the Power Automate personal app did show up in a very broken state for a couple of weeks. The product team is trying to fix some of the Power app or Power Automate integrations with Teams, like the ability to use a flow to post an adaptive card. In part of the trying to fix that, they prematurely enabled the personal app for Power Automate. Right now, they don't have a clear timeline of when that's going to be done, but it is actively being developed by the product group. They do plan to do a message center post when they have a clearer timeline for when that is going to be fully released.
Awesome. Anybody else? Our last couple minutes here. I just deployed our first. Okay. So chats. Got some things in chat. I think they're talking about webinar in chat, so that's cool. Yeah, we did show that. Again, I'm in a commercial tenant, but we did show last week webinar. I think it was last week webinar in the GCC tenant. So definitely talked about that. What else? What else is going on these days? So I think it's good. We shared some nice best practices here today, in addition to some roadmap announcements. So that's good stuff. I'll say when loop hits, there'll be plenty for us to talk about there. I suspect that'll kind of be a new way of working if your org is starting to adopt that. And shared channels, drops whenever that may be. That'll be a lot of discussion there. So got some features coming should generate a lot of, especially for this group, generate a lot of good questions and conversations. All right. Well, good group today. Good talk. Last thing I'll say, so I hadn't yet put a survey on the Q for Teams page. I did a little survey about questions that people are interested in on LinkedIn, and basically asked between meetings, chat, and collaboration in general, what was the interest. And although there wasn't a lot of responses, overwhelmingly people were saying collaboration and files, channel kind of activities was what they were interested in hearing about. I feel like that may be consistent with what this group has been wanting to. But again, it's not because I don't think we've talked about, meetings big time in a while in the last few weeks here. So I'm gonna kind of go with that thought that, if you guys probably want to continue to hear about, file co-authoring and channel this and that, and that seems to be the flavor that people like. So but if you got different thoughts, just let us know. We try to do what you need. Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for joining again, and have a good weekend, and we will see you all next week. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe and check out the blog for more content.